and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today we are going to be doing the 6 Tudor Queens tag. So I was tagged in this by Jennifer Loves Books, but the original tag was actually created by some of my BookTube besties. So it was created by Emily over at Novelle Novels. It was created by Danny from Danny's Book World, who is a fellow Scottish booktuber. And then it was also created by Jem from Jem of Books. So they are doing the Tudor Along, where they are reading the 6 Tudor Queen books. And to sort of announce them starting the read along, they created this original tag, which is very cool. And I was actually going to do it at the time, and then I didn't. But then I got tagged anyway, so it's fine. So we're here today, that's what we're doing. Let's crack on. So I didn't just ramble like always day. So, I'm sure I've spoken about this in the channel loads, and this will only come as a surprise to anybody, but I was quite a geeky child. Very, very geeky child, and I was obsessed with The Hobbit. So, this needs to be The Hobbit. My dad used to read it to me, and I had beautiful illustrated editions that you would take out for the library. I was unhealthily obsessed with the cartoon film, and actually me and Simon went through to stay with my parents not too long ago for a few days, and I actually got my dad to find and download that old copy of the cartoon Hobbit film so that I could show Simon like just how much a geek I was, and it was just heavy nostalgia. So The Hobbit is definitely one of my favourites. I can directly link that to the reason why I love fantasy so much now. It was just so cosy and so magical, and it was a really special time because it was something that my dad was interested in as well, and so we just like was able to share that, which was really cool and something that I really enjoyed doing. And that just led me on to then reading Lord of the Rings and Narnia, which then led me on to the book series that shall not be named, and Percy Jackson's, and then Twilight, and you know, I just went into an entire fantasy slash paranormal romancy spiral, and I'm still in it. It's fun. So I would 1000% say The Hobbit. Now I read quite a lot of dubious books. I read a lot of fantasy that has morally grey characters, or it could be seen as a bit manipulative, and I also read quite a lot of literary fiction where there are like manipulative characters. So I really struggled to narrow this one down, but I've gone with The Cruel Prince by Holly Black because I just read that this year. At the beginning of the year I read the entire Folky the Air trilogy, and like there's just so much manipulation in there for so many different reasons. There is like familial manipulation, there is political manipulation, there is like so much pressure on some of the characters in that book to do the right thing by their family, so there's also almost like reputational manipulation. And a lot of the characters are just so morally grey and flip-flop back and forth that it's really difficult at times to learn, like to understand and like think about who you can actually trust. And I just feel like that's got to be such a great example because there are so many manipulators in those books, and even our main characters are manipulators and are manipulated, and it's just brilliant. I think that the characters in that book, as much as I love the world, the characters are something that really just pulled it through for me, and all the politics of it and the intrigue, deception, all that kind of stuff just made it an absolutely phenomenal series for me, and it's something that still sticks in my head that I really enjoyed. There are some fantasy series I read and like they were maybe a fun time, and if somebody mentions them, like I can talk about them, but they didn't really stick in my head a great deal. Whereas that trilogy is still like living in my brain rent free. Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune has been one of my favourite reads this year. I was going into it with such high hopes because I had read House in the Cerulean Sea, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. I fell in love with the eloquent, whimsical style of TJ Klune's writing, and I was nervous about going into Under the Whispering Door as much as I was excited, because I was scared that House in the Cerulean Sea might be a one-off, because it was the first TJ Klune that I had ever read. But it didn't. It was absolutely everything that I wanted it to be, and I feel like it was everything that I really needed it to be. Last year was a really tough year for me and my family, and we lost a lot of good people, and we just were going through so much grief, and it felt like before we had even began to deal with and recover for the fact that we had lost one person, unfortunately somebody else died, and it was just a really, really difficult year for everyone. And I feel like Under the Whispering Door just came at exactly the right time for me. I really, really needed that read, and I really needed some of the life lessons that came out of that book, and so it gave me everything that I needed and so much more. It was just brilliant, and I feel like it was done in a really easy way. Like, I didn't feel like it was a self-help book teaching me how to deal with grief, but it did everything that I needed it to, and it was just so brilliant and really wonderful and lovely, and one of the first books that I read this year that really gave me a wee bit of hope and gave me a wee bit of joy. I just needed it. It was brilliant. So this is a book that I really wasn't expecting it to be this, but that is The Night Country by Melissa Albert. So I spoke about this on my channel quite a bit this year, but I'm bitter about it. So I read The Hazelwood at the end of last year, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was about fairy tale characters, and it was sort of feel like fairy tale retellings-ish with new stories in there as well. And our main character, her gran had written all these fairy tales, and she was told never to go to the Hazelwood, which she assumed was like a family estate. However, the Hazelwood is actually where all these fairy tales are set, and turns out her gran, like, was no a brilliant lady, and her mum goes missing and she needs to go and find her. So she obviously needs to go find her in the Hazelwood, and it's about her going on this journey and only discovering stuff about herself, but about her mum and about her gran, about their family, and about this fairy tale world that her gran created / plagiarised. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a 5-star read for me. The characters were brilliant, the relationships were brilliant, the fairy tale stories were phenomenal. They achieved like the right amount of creepiness, which made it feel really true and really realistic to the original Grimm's fairy tales, which helped solidify this world. And I really loved it. I raved about it so much, and so I was so excited to get into the next two in the series. So The Night Country is the second one, the third one is Tales to the Hinterland, but the third one's like just the wee short stories, so you don't really need to read that if you don't want to. So went in The Night Country expecting it to be phenomenal. I expected it to pick up off where the last one finished, and we get to spend time with some of my favourite characters again in this world that I really loved. And that's not really what happened, and the book just takes a total twist. So their fairy tale world is blocked shut, no longer access to. So they are just like roaming about in real life, and fairy tale characters start getting murdered off, and our main character decides to solve it. And so it went from being like a coming of age story with like all these dark fairy tales mixed in, to it just being like a murder mystery, but the characters just so happen to have used to have been fairy tale characters. And it was just a really weird shift. The entire tone of the book changed, like the entire fucking genre changed, I feel like, and it just had absolutely fuck all to do with the first book, other than that it had the same main character, and that was it. But even at that, like, their entire personality had changed in the second book. So it was just really piss poor, and I really didn't enjoy it, and I was raging I read it. And then I read the third one and was even more raging, because the third one is just half of the shorts, like half of the fairy tales that are in the first book anyway, with like a couple of extra ones. So like, piss poor. And frankly, I will never buy another Melissa Albert book because of how bitter I am about that. Aye. Disgusting.
Disgusting! Disgusting! Disgusting!
I'm going to say The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, and I need to apologise right now to my sister because she fucking loved this book. So I just couldn't get on board with the amount of times we spoke about Olive's weight in this book. Like, it really, really irritated me. It really pissed me off, and like, it pissed me off in the beginning because obviously it was heavily implied to us, the reader, that was it Ethan? Who knows? We'll go with Ethan anyway. That like it was Ethan judging and pushing his like body image issues onto her or whatever. And she was like, "What? Like, I'm confident. I'll eat what I want." But she wasn't really, because you could see how much it was affecting her. So like, annoying, but whatever. And then as the book progresses, you actually find out he wasn't doing that, and so it's all been in her head, and she's been like just assuming this stuff the entire time and being a bit para about it, which like is fair because we're all our own harshest critics, so I get it. Like, but if you're going to make weight a storyline, then I feel like you need to do it responsibly, and I didn't feel like Christina Lauren handled this responsibly in any way, shape or form, because there's so much chat in the beginning of the book about her just fucking bursting out of her clothes. Like, how many times can like the fat chick in a book or a TV show be the literal butt of the joke because she's bent over and her fucking trousers are ripped, or in this case like her dress is ripped, and so now her entire fucking arse is on show. Like, haha, that's hysterical because fat arses are funny. Like, that's just fucking annoying. Like, it's not like some sort of wee meet cute or whatever, or some sort of like romance cliche. Like, I don't understand why she couldn't have just been really comfortable and happy in her own body, like, and like, or just wore clothes that flattered her, like, and were the right size. Like, I don't know why everything needed to be so tight and everything needed to be so revealing on her because she was so big, she had big tits, and like why her arse needed to literally burst out of everything she wore. Like, it isn't funny. Like, that's embarrassing for her, and she was embarrassed. Like, why have you written your main character in situations like that? Like, because being bigger isn't anything to be embarrassed of, but you've made it something for your character to be embarrassed of. It was handled fucking shockingly. Like, I'm sorry, but it was. Like, it really irked me, really irked me. And then even when we get to the crux of it, right? Even when we sort of realise that it's her own insecurities and Ethan has never said any of this shit, that it's all been in her head, and when he's been like, "I love you, like, I think you're beautiful," like, I would never. Like, she doesn't actually then deal with any of her issues. It's not like she's like, "Oh well, maybe there's a reason why I see myself like this, and this is what I'm going to do to get better about it." Like, all that happens is the guy fancies her, so then she's like, "Huh, I'm shit hot," and all her body image issues just dissipates. Aye, because a guy fancies her. Yes, because that's how we teach women to get their worth. Absolutely. Round of applause for Christina fucking Lauren. I was raging, didn't like it, really aggravated me, still angry about it now. Now, I actually had to look this up because there weren't any that were like immediately springing to my mind other than the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. But I already spoke about The Hobbit earlier on, and so I felt like I didn't want to talk about that twice. And so I was looking up, I just googled basically books that had been published after the author had died to see if there was any on the lists that I had read, and Goodreads actually had a very good comprehensive list. So I would like to talk about Ariel by Sylvia Plath. I don't feel like I talk about the poetry that I enjoy as often on this channel as I should, and it's because, to be honest, like, it's quite sparse, and the poetry collections I tend to enjoy are few and far between, that I don't really read them often. Like, I'll maybe read a collection once every few years, and so I just haven't read any, other than one I think that I really didn't like, that I reviewed from NetGalley way back in the beginning of my channel. I just haven't really read any worth mentioning, but I really enjoy Sylvia Plath's work. studied loads of different poetry when I was in high school for our English class, and most of the poetry that I actually really enjoy now are poets that we studied then, and we studied Sylvia Plath quite a bit, and I just became a bit addicted to her work. I really enjoy it. I think that it can be quite biting, I think that it's very witty, and I know that a lot of people didn't really like her and they don't really vibe with her writing, and I think that poetry, more so than any other type of book, is very subjective, depending on what you take away from it, but I really thoroughly enjoy her and I really love this wee collection. I have a lovely wee edition that I think I picked up from Waterstones like so many years ago now, and I really enjoyed it. It was funny, I really like the cover, I think it's a stunning wee version that I have, and it's just like a nice wee pocket-sized Sylvia Plath to take with you if that's what you fancy. This is going to be Master of One. Is it by Jada Jones? Is it by somebody else? I don't remember, but anyway, the picture's up and so it's fine. I really didn't enjoy this and I was so gutted about it because it was one of the ones that I had been anticipating for a really long time. I got it in one of the first few fairy loot boxes that I got when I had started my subscription, and it sounded brilliant. It was like about fairy relics and a thief trying to get them all together, and it was described as like really found family. It got so many good reviews. The edition is gorgeous. And I just didn't really like it. I found it difficult to connect to any of the characters. I felt like it prioritised character sassiness over meaningful dialogue, which is just a real fucking bugbear of mine in YA fantasies these days. Like, if your character is sassy, phenomenal. I love a sassy character, but they need to be a sassy character and no just sass. Like, which I feel is a mistake that a lot of authors are making, and that was the case for me in this book. Like, I feel like authors these days have like a list of sassy quotes that they want to put into their books and they just like shoehorn them in because they think, oh, people will love this, like it's so funny, oh, I'm a genius, folk are going to be quoting this shit and it's going to be on tote bags, folk are going to be getting tattoos, it's going to be on notebooks, oh, so cool. Like, whereas actually your characters are just a bit fucking dull and like one-dimensional, and therefore give less of a fuck about what they say. But so anyway, small rant aside, that's what I felt happened with this book. I found it really difficult to connect with anybody, and I found the writing style to be quite confusing between jumping with who was talking, and I tried doing this part physically, part audibly, and it just didn't work for me, unfortunately. Really didn't enjoy it. I persevered, however, because it was on my Marvelathon TBR and I wanted to read it to get the points for my team. But I really regret it, and it is one of the chunkier books that I've read this year, so it's a bit disappointing that I wasted my time reading it, to be honest, and I was quite gutted about it. I feel like this has been quite a ranty tag, and I apologise for that. I mean, you know what you get on this channel. With me, you always get my opinions 100%, and I didn't hold them back, so I feel like I am incapable of like no being ranty. So I feel like I am quite late to the game with this, and I don't know who has been tagged in this and who hasn't been tagged. I'm just going to tag some people anyway, and if you guys have already been tagged, then so's about it. But I'm obviously going to tag Ange from Angie's Biggest Chatter, because it's a habit that I will never break. Like, she will be tagged in every tag that I do, so I'm tagging you. I'm also going to tag Leandra over at the TBR0, and I'm going to tag Gaia Athena, but I think she might have already done it. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!